Welcome back to the show, everybody. Happy Friday. We don't normally do Friday shows. This has been such a treat this month. We might be doing them in 2014. You never know.
No one knows.
But I'm so excited. I'm so excited that she's here. I can't even take it. And I love her so much. And I'm going to get to tell her all the reasons why today. Please welcome the one and only Christina Applegate. See, I was like, oh, she's a producer. She's a TV star. She's a
totally.
But
she sounds like B. Arthur today. She's been sick, so
I know. Now, how are you feeling?
Sick. It's been a whirlwind the last couple of weeks, so we've been going crazy. And I haven't done as much as the boys. They've been really working hard. But yeah, we just went to like London for a couple days, and then New York, and then back here for a bunch of stuff. And I woke up this morning and here I am.
And I love you even more that you didn't cancel.
I know, right?
Well, we'll try to go gentle on you. First of all, so let's start with Anchorman 2 because this is a big deal. It's such a big deal because everybody is talking about this movie. I think you guys talking about doing press. This might be the most overpressed movie
commercials,
ever.
Ron Burgundy is everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Ron Burgundy's doing like local news.
I know. Totally. Well, I think it built the anticipation.
Yeah.
People are like, okay, let's get to it already.
And
here we are, and we're
Now I've seen it because I saw it a couple weeks ago. I actually think it's better than the first one.
You do?
I do. How do you feel about it?
I think. I mean, I think they're both great. So it's hard to say.
I think it's been interesting to sort of see because 10 years since the first one.
Has it really been 10 years?
It's been 10 years.
Oh my God!
And it was really interesting. First of all, you were the biggest name. You and Will Ferrell were the biggest names in the first one.
Yeah.
Hence why I was on the posters the first time around, and this time not so much.
But yeah, like Steve Carell was unheard of.
No, right,
like Steve Carell was he got the gig. I listened to him on Howard Stern the other day, and it was really interesting, sort of hearing how like that movie kind of changed his life. It changed everybody's life.
Yeah.
Even Paul Rudd at the time was still more known for Clueless. Than now he's like Mr. Comedy, Mr. Judd Apatow. Even Judd Apatow wasn't.
Judd Apatow. He had just done Freaks and Geeks and like one other thing at that time, and now he's like
the man.
He's our master. He's everybody's master.
Yeah, Seth Green has Seth
Seth
Rogen.
Seth Rogen had like one line in it. He played my cameraman.
Yeah.
And he did it. He was friends with Judd, and Judd's like, "Hey, this is my friend who's gonna just be doing like one line here," and then the next thing you know, it's like
he's Seth Rogen.
He's Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
so how was it coming back 10 years later with everybody and everyone being so incredibly different?
Well, no one's changed. That's the thing. I mean, their bank accounts have changed. Their life has changed. Their homes are much bigger, I'm sure. But the only thing that really changed is that we all had kids. More kids.
Yeah.
Than we had before. But everyone's the same personalities, same wonderful group of people that I just love and adore more than anything. So. We did this movie selfishly. We just wanted to hang out again.
Which is there's nothing wrong with that.
And if there's another one, we only want to do another one just to hang out again. I mean, it's not even about like people seeing it, although we want people to see it, obviously. But we just really wanted to hang out.
I love that. I kept thinking.
That's great.
I'm not going to be too mean here, but the Grown Ups movies. I'm not going to be too mean here, but every time when I watched the first one, all I kept thinking of was like. I'm just going to say it. The movie's not very good, but I was like, I would have loved a documentary crew to have been
followed all of them
off camera, because when you had that caliber of that many funny people and the friendship,
just hanging out,
and the friendship and the bond, I'm like, where was that movie? That was the movie that I would have loved to have seen.
The behind the scenes.
And I feel like that's probably very similar to
it is, because I know
someone that was in it, and they said that they only kept doing them just hang out with their friends, just to be with their friends.
Which totally makes sense. And and with the Anchorman people, I mean, again, it's so funny. And I don't know, kind of what we were talking about with Bette Midler. I don't know if you heard us talking about Bette Midler before the thing, but kind of that same thing. Even somebody like Steve Carell, because I just watched the first Anchorman a couple days ago.
Me too.
I think Steve Carell's character in the new one is also better, but I think it's because Steve Carell is a better actor because of time, just because
he's had a lot
experience.
of experience, and I think we were all kind of finding our footing in the first one, obviously with these characters, and now we know them so well, and it was easier for everyone to kind of get into those shoes. I mean, not that easy. It was actually a little awkward getting back into these people, but I think everyone really adapted quite well.
It was interesting.
And Steve is amazing in this one. He's got a lot more great stuff too.
He was fantastic.
Yeah.
I just watched the first one too, and he's so freaking
but
funny.
We have 3 movies. A lot of people don't know that.
That's what I heard you saying.
Wake Up Ron Burgundy is really kind of the Anchorman too. It was compiled of the things that we didn't use in the first one, and it's a full 90-minute film, and that to me is my favorite of the 3.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
See, I didn't.
All right.
Maya Rudolph's in it. Amy Poehler's in it. It's so bizarre, and because they didn't have to rate it, it's much dirtier. It's a little bit more crass.
I feel a movie night coming on, Bob.
Yeah,
you gotta get it. It's really good.
I did because I just heard you say that. I think it was like on Ellen or maybe the Tonight Show. You had said that there were so many extra takes. I never understood what Wake Up Ron Burgundy was until you just said it like 2 days ago.
We had a B storyline when we first shot Anchorman about a bank robbery and a little team of bank robbers. And that took up half the movie. And when they screened it, I think the audiences were confused because they were just getting used to who we were.
Yeah.
And they sort of rejected that storyline because they wanted to just follow.
See what you
the
guys
love
were-
story was the big thing they wanted to follow, and just kind of stay with the news team at first while we're getting to know these 5 people.
Yeah.
So because of that, we have this huge subplot. So he was able to take scenes that we had deleted anyway, put them in around this storyline of us investigating these bank robbers.
Which is so cool, and I want to watch
Maya
that.
Rudolph plays one of the bank robbers, and she's really funny. And Amy Poehler, who was virtually unknown, has one of the best scenes I've ever seen. She plays a bank teller during one of the robberies, and I'll watch that over and over and over.
I'm like, I gotta go. I'll see you kids later.
But then after that, you need to go see the movie.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to go see the movie.
Yes,
Well,
that is very
and I
true.
think that's also because, again, watching the first Anchorman, there's a lot of introduction, like because you're right. At the time, these are brand new characters. I actually remember because you and I met for the first time at Sundance, and you were there for Employee of the Month, but you were also like, yeah, and I'm doing this new comedy that's coming out in a few months, which was going to be the first Anchorman.
Oh wow, that was what was going on.
Yeah, and it was, so it's interesting to like Anchorman was just going to be like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it an indie comedy, but it wasn't. Nobody could have predicted that it was going to become what it became.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, then not even the box office was all that great. So this was something that's just grown and grown and grown over the last 10 years. So many new people have been introduced to it, like new generations have been introduced to it. So it's kind of, this was the perfect time to do the sequel because I think it's going to reach much more people than the first one did.
Well, and again, what I love about the second one is it just jumps in because you're so familiar now with these characters that you're just on the ride and it's like out the gate you go. The other person who is so, oh my God, good in this movie, you know who I'm going to say, is Kristen Wiig.
She's very funny in this movie.
But also, because Kristen Wiig is known for being so over the top, is
she pretty subdued?
She's
in it?
pulled. Yeah. She's pulled back. I'm trying to, because I don't want to give. I'm not giving anything away, but she's so pulled back and actually funnier than you're used to her being.
Oh,
like she's just.
It's pretty great.
She's so like. Go. I will.
Okay.
Go
I haven't
see this
seen
movie.
it yet.
Yeah, go.
You
see
haven't
it.
seen it? You gotta see
I'm
it.
gonna go see it.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's really, it's a pretty great movie, and I finally got to see it with a big audience. And usually at premieres,
awesome.
people are pretty uppity and they don't laugh as much as like a raucous like.
Friday night.
We've had
night.
drinks
Friday
and we're gonna go see
night.
Anchorman too. Yeah,
but you couldn't even hear half the dialogue. People were like cracking up, like dying laughing at stuff. And that made me feel really good because I know that if I was to sneak into the ArcLight on a Friday night, that it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at like people like on Twitter saying that they're gonna like they're drinking scotch before they go, and they're making like nights of it.
Totally.
I was impressed.
When in Rome,
I couldn't believe that Ollie Murs, who's like a big pop star, especially over in Britain, he showed up to the premiere in London dressed as Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
Like he had the mustache and the suit and everything.
Fantastic.
And I was like, nobody ever, like we take our Hollywood premieres, we're a little bit too, nose up in the air and like, I want to be too cool. I loved that, but also that says something.
The requirement. You had to dress as the news team, so there were tons of Veronicas and Rons and Bricks, and and it was pretty great that people actually did it.
Yeah, because they don't.
And then I'm standing there like in a poochie gown. You know what I mean? Like, but that's my job. I can't dress silly.
You looked gorgeous.
Is Fred Willard in the second one?
Yes.
I have to ask. I was just watching Anchorman, and I was like, I feel as if when they say action, nothing changes for that man. Is he just exactly like that?
He's not as crass. I mean that character is very crass, but no, I mean he's great. He's
so.
I mean, think about
God.
He's how old, I'm not sorry, Fred. I love him, but
he's been around
Fred's
a while.
Getting up there.
He's a veteran.
Absolutely.
He's still like hilarious and an incredible.
Oh my God,
improver, and I mean he's so on point.
Oh, so
he's
good.
Such a great man.
Yeah.
Well, it is a really, really good movie, and you've got to be. I mean, it's got to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is to be a part of something like this.
And I know one of the big questions that everybody always wants to know is what's on the script and what's improv.
That is a really good question.
It's hard to say.
Because your character, you always are sort of like
I'm kind of the
you're the mom. You're almost the mom. Yeah,
I'm
you're
the mom of the group. So my stuff is usually pretty much scripted, with the exception of a few things, obviously. But I don't have like in this one, there's a lot less to do too. I'm kind of I serve a little bit of a purpose there.
Yeah.
But I'd say most of the structure of it is still there. There's a joke here and a joke there are different. But I know that we would do one take for an hour. Because it was digital, so you didn't have to stop. The first time we were on film, so we wouldn't be able to improv as much, and we wouldn't be able to kind of go. But on this one, they just would it would just keep going and going and going. Where Adam McKay is actually, and I'm not sure if he's actually done it, but I know this is what he was going to do, was do another version of the movie, same plot, same scenes, exactly the same scenes, but with completely different dialogue, because that's how many takes we have of each one, that you could have each
which
scene.
I think is
that
like
is
the coolest
the most
thing.
fantastic idea I've
completely
ever
different
heard.
jokes. Completely.
Because and that's never been done before.
There's
has it?
350 different jokes that he could insert into this.
Wow.
And still have it be exactly the same.
That is totally and completely insane.
I want to see that. Right,
I think that they were
Wake
gonna
Up Wrong Burgundy.
He wanted to release it theatrically, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it will be hopefully on the DVD, and which is great for the Uber fans who can be like, oh my God, I get to see it again, but with a totally different.
But it's so cool. It's almost.
But just also to see the comedy, like what works and what is that better? Is that it's so fun to compare it?
Yeah, and how they made the decisions.
Yeah, and how they made the decision.
Why did you decide that was the funnier joke?
Why does that land better?
Stuff, I had to approve a couple gag reel stuff, which will also be on the DVD. That you guys are going to lose your mind, because there's there are scenes with the four boys that I cannot believe what's coming out of their mouths, and they're all laughing so hard. They Will does this thing where when he starts laughing, he goes like this, because he's just he cries when he laughs immediately.
He's gonna get those tears.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really great to see.
And how hard is that as an actress? Because obviously you're a veteran actress, but the hardest thing is because they're supposed to be outlandish and crazy, and they're supposed to make the audience laugh. But if you laugh, if you break while they're doing it, you might have just ruined.
That's right.
The best take. How hard is that to not break?
On this movie, it doesn't matter. Everyone breaks. So it's kind of encouraged, because the whole point is everyone's trying to make the other person laugh anyway. So it's fine. They were fine with me breaking, and I broke a lot on this one. The first one, I held it together for the most part. But on this one, I let myself be an audience member a little bit more than before.
That is so cool.
Well, so unprofessional.
It's
the way it is.
Or awesome.
Yeah. Or awesome. Completely awesome.
Let's go with awesome.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about, I watched your Who Do You Think You Are? That was not an easy one. First of all, what was interesting about it is normally they go way, way, way back. Normally they've got you on a boat to, Ireland. Everybody seems to be from Ireland. And, and back in 1602, you literally just went back one generation to it was your dad's parents.
Yes.
I don't know. It was such a beautiful thing. And for anybody out there who hasn't seen it, I think you can still get it on demand. It was really good. But how hard was that to go through?
It was awful. It was really awful. This has been the big mystery that's plagued my dad's life for, since he was a little boy. I'm about to sneeze. But I could have just
yeah, she has a cold. She's not crying, I swear.
Excuse me.
Well, I'll tell people really quickly.
Thank you.
Your dad basically grew up never knowing his parents. Basically, had known that his mom always felt like his mom had abandoned him, and then his dad had abandoned him because he was raised by his grandparents. Knew nothing and knew that his mom died when he was very young, as of about 8 years old, is what he thought. And was all sort of delivered to him, and we all know, and this is kind of why I want to talk about it, because I talk about my mom issues on this all the time lately. You know, I like to get the part about healing, because knowing what he went through his whole childhood and thinking that you're not wanted, and because that's every child, that's all you want that connection. Absolutely. And you're just like, why wasn't I wanted? And it was so, I mean, I actually have the audio clip here from when you tell your dad everything that you've learned. I want to know like how healing that was when you finally get to tell him what the circumstances were.
Yeah, it was very healing for him. I think it also he spent a lot of time afterwards pretty confused and pretty upset, because it started to bring stuff up, and he started to have memories that he hadn't tapped into before, and it was really difficult for him. And so I would talk to him on the phone afterwards and just keep saying, "But Dad, you have done something so extraordinary, because you were given no tools, nothing. I mean, you know, our parents start instilling tools in us when we're, you know, infants, and that's, you know, how, I'm with my daughter. I'm getting her ready for the world. I'm getting her ready to be a mother and a friend and, you know, an employee and whatever it is. But he was given zero. And
yeah, because he wasn't given that example of this is how a dad behaves, and this is how I'm gonna, you know, send you out in the world like you're talking about.
Yeah, and then he's still angry about a lot of it. You know, he's still angry at his dad for not coming to get him out of that house, because he didn't know that he lived with his mom for as long as he did, and the circumstances under which he was living, and the kind of hovel that it was, and she was a really horrible alcoholic, and had different guys coming in and out, and there's so much stuff that wasn't in the episode that we found out, which was pretty extraordinary. And he doesn't understand why his dad, who lived, you know, a few blocks away, didn't take him in. And I always am trying to explain, like, Dad, he got remarried, and I think that my grandmother, I knew both of them, she's not going to want to raise that lady's kid, you know. I mean, it was all kind of like, I'm trying to explain.
And at the time, in the 40s,
in the time, and it was just it was easier for him to be with the grandmother, I guess. But
well, I think
he went on to be really successful in the music industry, all on his own.
Yeah,
you know, and raising my brother and sister, who are both incredibly bright and successful, and, you know, doing their thing. He's still with the same woman he's been with for 41 years. It's kind of extraordinary how he's been able to have this life and this legacy,
and provide for what he didn't have,
his kids, and with nothing.
Well, and that's what I loved about it, because so basically, in a nutshell, you know, my mother was also. I grew up in a very unsafe environment. My mother couldn't keep a job, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, all of that stuff, and I used to always have that same thing. Why hasn't my dad come to rescue me? Sure. Especially because I finally met my dad when I was 12 years old, and I was always like, why hasn't he come to get, like, this woman is not safe. My life is not good here. Why hasn't he come to get me? And so that's really why I'm bringing all of this stuff up. You know, and I had to learn to reconcile everything else, you know, and heal myself, because I didn't have a choice. And after our break, we're going to get into some of that and how you're a part of that. But I don't know. It was so beautiful. And when you said to him, because he was so upset, and you said to him, you broke the cycle. That was so beautiful, because he was like, he felt so rejected and dejected and like let down, and you were like, but Dad, you broke the cycle. You weren't an alcoholic. You were good. You were good to us. You broke the cycle.
Sure.
And
that's amazing.
And like you talk about him being successful and stuff, like that to me is when we're pulling back, and this isn't about Hollywood. This is about life, and everybody out there listening who goes through stuff with family, and we're always talking about how life is choices. It's not about what happened to you. It's about what you're choosing to continue to do.
Yep.
So I just thought it was a beautiful episode. It wasn't what I expected. I only watched it because you were there, and normally I'm like, I find them kind of fascinating. You know, it's interesting.
Well, it is interesting
because I don't have that kind of lineage, so I'm, you know, I don't. For you, like you, I don't know that I get all emotional. I'm like, wow, my grandmother was a slave owner, and you know, and crossed the river or something like that. Like, I don't know. So I don't normally connect to him the way I did. I really connected to yours just because it was so empowering.
You might get emotional. I didn't. I thought I could be pretty stoic through this, but the more information I kept hearing, and we don't, you know, you don't practice this. They don't give it to you right before. You're on camera, and they're saying, yeah, your grandfather used to beat up your grandmother, and she, you know, all this stuff, and it's like, oh my God, you know, and you know, I came from my childhood home before was pretty awful too. With people and stuff, which I won't go into. So it all just broke my heart, you know, because I related to him and I related to, you know, the patterns do pass on, you know, unfortunately a little bit. It can't just, you know, it's not like all of us are just Pollyanna.
Yeah.
You know, this is
I'm totally different.
Yeah. You know, I come from a pretty interesting family. We're all pretty, you know, we're damaged goods, and yet at the same time, but we're survivors, and that's what's kind of incredible. And I look at my mother and my father and what they've been through, and you know, what I've been through. We all are above water, and we're not treading. We're actually like standing there, like doing this and being okay out in the world. So
amazing.
It was great, and I didn't mean to get us so deep in the weeds there, but I also love it, and it's also part of why I love you, because you are so honest in everything that you do, and that's one of my favorite parts about you.
Thanks.
We are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some more stuff. So don't go anywhere. And if you guys do want to call in, I missed a couple calls. I'm sorry, but we will try to take some calls. 323-284-7826. Don't go anywhere.